Joseph, professor at Case Western Reserve University. I'm the founding director of NP3, Nurturing People and Power in Place, a demonstration and learning hub at the university focused on promoting transformative interdependence. Together we thrive, bringing folks together across lines of difference. I wrote the book to delve into my everyday anti-racism framework. So the book is 8 short stories, each of which goes into one of the concepts of the framework. And I wanted to provide a way for people to be able to think more deeply about and engage more deeply with each other around topics that in this particular day and age are even harder for us to talk about. And so wanted to use fiction as a way of drawing people in to conversation about some of these issues. I felt like these stories needed to be told. Number one, I've always had a creative writer inside. When I was younger, a kid, I used to write stories and always had a feeling that maybe one day I would have an opportunity to write a novel. At some point along the way, I got really intrigued by the possibility of short stories as a way to tell a more focused, quicker story with a twist that could kind of grab the reader. And then when I landed on needing to find additional ways to help people talk about anti-racism, especially in a moment where we're either told not to discuss it, not to use certain words, can we have these conversations? And felt like a short story fictional form would be a great way to help continue the conversation. So put those two together, and I had an opportunity to unleash the creative writer within, focused on this issue of what I call everyday anti-racism. So once I had in my head that I wanted to write short stories, the first thing I did was took about a year and just delved into reading short stories and reading about the short story form and method. So there are books out there about how to write a short story and the format and so on. And there are also all these lists of some of the world's greatest short stories. I knew that I wanted to hone in, at least in part, on Afrofuturism. And so Octavia Butler became really the touchstone for me, the queen of Afrofuturism. It turns out she wrote just one book of short stories called Bloodchild. And so that really became an inspiration point for me, reading through her short stories and getting to see her approach to addressing weighty, vital social issues through the short story form. I also really love the way that she included an author's note after each short story, which was a device that allowed her to give the reader a little insight into where the story came from, what she was thinking, some of the themes. So as you'll see, when you see the book, I've picked up on that device and I include an author's note at the end of each story. So what surprised me the most about the writing process for this book is once I started, how quickly and easily the stories came to me. I now think of it as just part of, I guess, the artistic process where the art and the creativity exists somewhere and the artist is just a vessel that kind of taps into that creativity that's already out there in the universe somewhere to be brought to life. But I was surprised by how quickly the ideas for a core plot for a particular story, who the characters would be, and even in many cases, kind of what the twist of the story would be. So really it was just a matter of being able to make time in the midst of busy life with a lot of other things going on to focus in on the short stories. When I had the time, was able to sit down, I was really amazed and felt very blessed by how quickly and easily the stories kind of rolled out of me. So there's no part of the book that I almost deleted, but there's one particular story of the 8 that I had to work the most on, that has had the most iterations, and it's a story that focuses on restitution, and it was intended to be, and still is intended, to be a love letter to Black women, and really lift up and center and honor the role that Black women play, very often overlooked in society. I was quite proud of myself when I finished it, but then upon it being read by Black women, including my wife and daughter, they pointed out ways in which I needed to kind of push further and harder to acknowledge not only the power that Black women already hold, but acknowledge the burden of that and the weight of that. And the story kind of looks to Black women as in a savior role, and they helped me understand how I needed to really dig deeper into acknowledging there's an upside to that, but there very much is a downside as well, which is important for us to grapple with in society. When I picture the book on shelves years from now, if I think far enough out, my hope would be that people read these stories and it helps them reflect on how far we've come. It helps them understand that some of the themes and the issues of oppression and alienation and trauma, that we've made some progress. I would hope that years from now when the book is being read, it wouldn't be seen as still pointing to a future yet to be embraced that is a more anti-racist, inclusive, equitable future. I hope folks will be reading the book saying, oh, look, this is pointing to themes that we actually have been able to start to get some real traction on as a society. In a moment like this, that very much seems aspirational, but my hope is that through conversations like the ones that this book can provide, that we will actually start to find ways to take everyday action in our spheres of influence that then could amount over time to more and more impact in changing toward the kind of world that we want to see.